to join. Hope you guys are doing very, very well. Today I'm targeting to make about a 40-45 minute stream, so it's not going to be too long. I've been having a few videos that covered quite a bit, so I hope that a lot of people can join and that they have a few questions for me, of course. Let me see if everything is good. Yeah, it should be okay. I see. Yeah, Yo just joined. Hello. Thank you for being here. I actually had a scheduled stream on another server, but for some reason it didn't work. So I said, oh, well, F it, and I'll just kickstart it. I think I'll continue, and as people join, I'll keep on moving. Can you hear me? By the way, yo, if you can, just let me know in the chat. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, good. So quite the historical weeks, whatever you want to call it. So the US has gone over the election, was a decisive win by the Republicans across all fronts. That's actually, I think, quite important this time around. I think the Democrats crossed a few lines that to me are really unacceptable. One of them being, treating free speech as a privilege. That to me was really bad. The way that thing goes, that's the kind of cancerogenous behavior that will last forever. And number two, the whole, open borders and then just legalize people so they vote for you. I mean, that to me is also unacceptable. You have all sorts of people going in the country, you have no idea who they are, and you just hope for the best as long as you can get elected. So to me, that's really unacceptable. In any case, he won. I think he has a very good team around him. So I'm actually more excited about the team around him rather than necessarily himself. I mean, I think himself will be very good, not only to kind of bring peace to the world, but also I think one thing is fair to say that this election has brought, there's a feeling of hope. People actually have hope for things to actually become very good and not just, live day by day, try to scrape to survive. I think that hope, that feeling of hope was very characteristic also of Ronald Reagan when he won. And I think in that sense that spirit remains the same. And I think that's important. I think 2028 will probably be the most important election of all time. Even, I mean, this one was very important because this put a stop to a lot of nefarious things that would change the US forever. As I've said, the attack on free speech and the whole illegals, so they can give them free stuff so they can vote, that would have changed dramatically. And I think the second most important one will be 2028. And the reason is actually quite simple, is if the Republicans win, whoever wins, I don't know if it's going to be J.D. Vance, I don't know if it's going to be Vivek, if it's going to be Tulsi, I mean, DeSantis, take your pick. The point is, if that person wins, what you're going to see is that person will benefit from two very important things that can have a very, impressive effect in the US going forward. Number one is the 2030 census, which I have not seen almost anybody talking about it. So basically, once a decade, the US runs the census on the population, and basically the electoral votes are dependent on how many people live in a certain state. So this is why, I don't know, Alaska has 3 votes and California has 54. Now, the reason I'm saying that this is actually quite important, it's because in 2030, California will be losing 4 votes, New York will be losing 3 votes because of all the people that left, right? Minnesota is losing 1, Illinois, I think, is losing 2, which means that's 10 votes. 10 votes is a Wisconsin, right? And all of those are going into Florida, Texas, Idaho, Montana, and Indiana, I believe. So very, very red states at the moment, which means it's like Wisconsin disappears from the map, or it cancels it out, basically. So that's factor number one. And factor number two, I think by 2030, whoever is in power will greatly benefit from AI and all the productivity stemming from that, which means they're going to be associated to its success, despite not having anything to do with it. It's purely driven by the private sector. But you know how these things go, right? Bill Clinton is still reminded fondly. I always give that example because of the cell phone and kind of a little bit of the internet boom. He's still remembered very fondly, like he had anything to do with it. So I think it's going to be very interesting years going forward. I think if he comes into office and by Q1, if he ends up both wars, I think just on that, he will gain a lot of goodwill. By the way, guys, if you're joining, don't forget, drop that like and subscribe if you haven't done so. Now, we all seen what happened to stocks. I mean, the only thing that I don't like at the moment is the bond market. It's still quite volatile. We are back below 91 in the TLT. So those are things that I don't like to see. However, the markets seem to be hanging in there. But the point is, I would like to see a gradual improvement on that front, particularly, going a little bit to the upside, not too much. You also don't want to see 3% plus or anything like that, but start going into the 100 level slowly but surely, let's say. Unfortunately, TLT is the preferred choice of Harry Dent. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. Bitcoin 90K looks like we have the super cycle predicted with Trump winning the election. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're going to go to crypto in a little bit. I just want to finish here. I mean, stocks are doing obviously very, very well. I think the big winner was the Russell 2000. Why? Because the Russell 2000 is the closest thing to the American economy. That's why it always lags behind everything else. And it's the one that is more shifty towards whoever is the president, interest rates. So basically what they get the feeling is, okay, he's going to win. Since he's going to win, he already won, right? So there's going to be a lot of protection on the US economy, and basically is going to force the Fed to drop the rates, which is good for the small caps, blah, blah, blah. So this is the idea behind it. And because he's going to be the president of peace, gold comes down because you remove, I mean, gold is done very, very well, not just on them because it's basically playing catch up as it was completely non-moving for like 11 years, but also because of the conflicts. It always works as kind of a end of the world edge, if you will. So that's why if you start removing that from the equation, gold comes down, which is basically what's happening right now. Same thing as silver. Silver is almost dropping below $30 again. So you remove that side of the equation, right? I think Russell 2000 was very close today or yesterday from hitting new all-time highs. We're talking less than a percentage point. I think that's going to happen very soon. I think today is a bit of a breather. We also need some of those, right? We just went straight up, no stop, no breathing. I mean, I saw today Bitcoin was is now at 88,000. It was at 85. The dips get bought immediately. There's no time. And that's something, actually, it was funny because I made a video. So I'm going to shift now to crypto. I made a video earlier this week, if you guys recall. And I said, now it's the hardest part of the bull market. What I mean by that is, now it's very easy to get left behind. So, nobody can complain. We had months and months and months on end. The cycle repeated almost identical to previous cycles. So it gave us plenty of time. It was showing us very clear signs. And people had enough time to build their own positions. Now, I'm thinking about dropping my last 10K into the market and just let it fly. I'm already doing extremely well, particularly in the meme coin space. As you guys know, I've always disclosed it. By the way, I forgot to do this, but I will put on this video, I'll put the description of all my current positions, plus either market cap that I got in, or average cost. Okay, so I'll do that today. Bitcoin at 90K, seems like we're gonna have the super cycle, as Christian was saying. I think there's a very good chance for it. I think, what did I say? You guys remember this? I said, you know, the institution should have been buying Bitcoin at 48,000, 50,000 during the Japanese debacle, but they don't do it. They buy it. They will, and I said they will ramp up their buying. The more the price goes up, the more they will buy. So they behave just like us. They chase the green candles. They like the green candles, and they hate the red candles. They buy when they shouldn't, and they don't buy when there's blood, which is when they should. I mean, when I say that the cycles have been repeating quite closely, this cycle has been repeating. There's been 2 to 3 weeks of front running, but it has been pretty much the same. We have the pump into the Bitcoin halving. So basically, let's go back. 2022, we have the bear market. Then we get to October, lasts, 360 days, the bear market. Okay, we get to October, start looking for the bottom here. Raf, thank you for coming. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to dial in with the other stream, for some reason it didn't work, so I just created a new one. So I apologize for that. So we had the bear market 2022, about 365 days, just like the other two bear markets, no different. Then we were looking in October 2022, okay, what's going to be such negative news that everybody's going to call for the end of crypto, and that's going to be the bottom. Okay, it was the FTX bankruptcy, then all the fears of contagion. The documentary is coming out of how crypto is always a scam. Okay, we got our bottom, perfect, we dropped 85% from the top, good enough. Not 85%, sorry, 77% from the top, good enough. Let's look forward. 2023 should be the recovery year. What does that mean? That means that we go up more than we go down, but we have these long, boring, watching paint dry type of months where Bitcoin basically gets traded within a range of $2,000 or so, up or down. Extremely boring, but then from time to time we have these big gap ups that pushes the price fairly higher, but it doesn't feel like a bull market. There's no excitement. It's very boring. Most people just don't have the patience. They go away. Okay, we had that, 2023. 2024 is supposed to be very good, particularly Q4 2023. So Q4 of the recovery year tends to be very good. And then the first quarter of the beginning of the bull market, which was 2024. Okay, we start ramping up. We go up. We pump into the halving. What did I say? I don't care what people say. People are all predicting 100K Bitcoin and 200K and all of these nightmare and left translated cycle and all of this kind of stuff. I said there's no way we're going to have a correction after the halving. I don't care what people say. Bitcoin should go to somewhere between 47 and 52K. Why 47, 52K? That's about a 35, 37% drop. Why is that a relevant number? Because it's fairly in line with the drops that we had in other Bitcoin post-halving corrections. Once again, repetition of the same thing. Now you need to understand, a lot of people are saying this time is different because we have the ETFs, because we have this. Okay, we'll see. What you're advocating is a buy the rumor, buy the news event. We'll see if you're right. I disagree. I think Bitcoin's going to go to 47, 52,000. We go to August, Japanese carry trade debacle. Bitcoin touches 48,000. Great. I think we got there. People start saying, oh, this is just the unwinding of half of the trade. Bitcoin's going to go to 30K. This is it. Maybe there's no bull market anymore. This is a big deal. It's the end of the world. Blah, blah, blah. All these channels talking about selling their crypto, doing all of this. Okay, and I came live that day and I said, by the way, guys, you remember I made a bunch of videos talking about bottom signals, and those type of videos tend to be very theoretical, right? And I say, okay, here it is. Here is your perfect example of a bottom, real life, on the spot. Everybody thinks Bitcoin's going to go to 30K. Everybody's bearish. The fear and greed index is at extreme fear. Everybody's in panic mode. Everybody's predicting Bitcoin 30K. This is your bottom. This is the last time you're going to see Bitcoin with a 40,000 level. And from that day, that has been the case. Then I also said Bitcoin will hit at least 80,000 before the end of November. Here we are at 90,000. Also said Ethereum has been sleeping. Once Ethereum wakes up, it's going to move really fast, really quickly. And it's going to left most people behind. So all these videos that Crypto Banter was making about how he ended his toxic relationship with Ethereum and how he left Ethereum and how Ethereum is finished and there's everything about Solana, blah, 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 blah. I make a prediction today to you, Ethereum from October 2024 onwards until the end of the cycle, I think Ethereum will do better than Solana. So we'll see if I'm right or not. And you will see all these influencers coming back to Ethereum after giving up on it. And now you already, I think Crypto Banter already, I actually never sold my Ethereum. Yeah, sure. If Ethereum was down in the dumps, he would be saying he sold his Ethereum and he should buy his course and his services, right? Believe whatever you want. I don't care, to be honest. It's the same thing. You see, these people have their own YouTube businesses. They live off you. They need to convince you that they are the kings and the queens of the world. They are consistently wrong. They make 20 calls, maybe one gets right. They only focus about that one, and this is how they move. Now, what I said from the start, these people predicting, if Kamala wins, it's the end of the crypto cycle and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. So no, if you have him win, you have a potential for a big super cycle. You have the majority of the gains in crypto that you're going to see from here until the asset matures. This is going to be it. This is going to be your biggest gains. Everything's going to go up. Everything. I mean, everything except scams, but even scams will go up. But I'm talking like if it's just a straight rug pull, the whole thing drops 99% and the liquidity gets removed completely. That's a different story, obviously. But a lot of things will go up. Basically, a lot of things people will buy by mistake or buy without knowing what it is, and they just make money. And this is the part where the cycle convinces you that you are a genius. And this is, by the way, and I have to warn you again, this is when YouTubers will create their passive income for the bear market. You see, now they're going to come up. Now what pays off is to come up with lists of 10 coins. Because we are entering a stage where if you pick a list of 10 coins, probably 8 will do well. And they will convince newcomers that they are complete geniuses. And they will create a base of people buying their Discord fees and buying their courses and buying their masterminds and crypto watch lists and all of this, just until the bear market comes, exposes all these people as frauds, but they've already created a very nice stream of passive income because they convinced their followers that they are geniuses. This has happened in every cycle, and it will happen again. Potentially worse this time around, because I think crypto will gain more popularity than ever before. But be aware of this. Be aware of these people, the Johnny's come lately to the cycle, the people that have got it. Because you see, up until now, it was hard to make certain decisions. From now on, it's fairly easy. Now the biggest issue in this side of the cycle is this part of the cycle. The biggest problem is you are waiting for Bitcoin to retrace to 75,000, and before you know it, it's 110,000. You're waiting for Ethereum to go back to 2,900, which could go, by the way. Ethereum has support at 2,925. So actually it would be bullish if we retested that part, but in any case, people will be waiting for Ethereum to go to 2,700 or whatever, and by the time, and as they wait for that, all of a sudden Ethereum is about 4,000. So this is the part where we are in the cycle. However, if you drop, money around kind of blindly, everything goes up for a while, particularly in the euphoria phase. Ethereum is still hated less, but it's going to come a time where it is going to drop quite aggressively. Yes, Raf, it feels even worse than that. using Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral for borrowing. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a fan of leverage, because in my view, you can get free leverage in the system. I'm not a trader. I don't trade regularly. I find narratives and I position for them, and so far, very good. By the way, one thing that your comment reminded me of is not everything at this stage goes up at the same time. So a few weeks ago, everybody was super excited with HOPPY, and everybody was sad that Andy was underperforming. Now Andy has approached 200 million market cap, basically doubled, while HOPPY has had a sell-off because the biggest whale just exited yesterday, which is actually quite positive, because that means that the biggest holder cannot harm the price when we go up again. My point is, not everything pumps at the same time at this stage. There's going to be a stage where everything pumps at the same time, which is the euphoria phase. We are very far away from it. We are not even close to it, okay? There's going to be the time where everything goes up at the same time. Okay, then you know it's in the euphoria phase. You're in the last 10, 15% of the cycle. You're talking the last 2-3 months of the cycle. We are not there. This is when Coinbase app is the #1 downloaded app in Google Store and Apple Store. This is when LeBron James is saying him and himself going to be paid in crypto. This is when Taylor Swift wants people to pay in crypto to go to her concerts. This is when Jim Cramer comes up with his own meme coin, maybe. This is when, very far away. That's for 2025. So 2025, we need to start sitting down and thinking, okay, what's going to be the same way that I've done with the bottom signals is, okay, what's going to be the top signal? What's going to be such a massive positive thing while everyone cannot see at all? How can this have anything negative? That's the top. I don't know what's going to be. My feeling is maybe it's the day that the Bitcoin strategic reserve is created, right? Maybe it's the day that a bunch of countries announced they're going to make it reserve currency like El Salvador did. I don't know. I really don't. And it will always depend on how the US is going to do it. If the US is going to say, just going to buy 20,000 Bitcoin a month, we don't care if it's $1 million of Bitcoin. That's one thing, right? If they say, yeah, we're just not going to sell it, start accumulating very easily, etc. Yeah, I know that, Jurassic, but Jurassic was asking a question about leverage, and I kind of got sidetracked here. Yeah, the problem with leverage that I have is it can go down more in the sense that, let's say Ethereum goes down enough that liquidates your position, and a little bit afterwards you have the bottom, and let's say a couple of months go by and Ethereum is above your liquidation price. You are destroyed. You're finished. You went away. Now, what I do, or what I don't need to get myself concerned with that, because I don't live in a place where you pay taxes on crypto. So I live in a place where there's no capital gain tax. So I don't need to be concerned about tax events on that nature. And my plan, as you guys know, I've said this before, if I do manage to retire from this cycle, is to become a fiscal resident of the Cayman Islands. There's nothing better than the Cayman Islands in terms of retirement. Yeah, the top will be when City Loomis will pass. Yes, we need to wait and see. I don't know what it can be. What I can tell you is, look, and Raf, sorry, I saw also a question about Bitcoin price by December. I don't know. Look, I think either we stay, I want to say above 100K, but either we go way above it or we miss it. I'll tell you why. Everyone is saying 100K by December, which means everyone is positioning for 100K by December. Now, the only way you blow it up is if you start pricing in 300K. So this is a very important notion. The way you get 100K Bitcoin is if the world starts to price in 300K Bitcoin. That's the only way they're going to buy it. if they think it's going to go higher. The same thing. Look, I don't care. Look, I make these predictions like Bitcoin will be above 80K by the end of November, right? And I did it on the day that Bitcoin collapsed from 62 to 48, right? The reason why I do it is, to be honest, to gain a little bit of credibility with you guys. Because my charts were telling me that we're going to go to above 80K, and also my knowledge of the cycle. But during that time period is much more impactful because everybody's predicting 30K, 25K, end of bull market. So if I come here and I say above 80K before the end of November, you guys, okay, this guy actually knows something, right? Because his track record and he's doing it for free, right? That's the key. I'm not charging anybody for money. Okay, this guy is an honest person, right? So that's why I do it now. But I don't care if Bitcoin is 120K in January. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think Bitcoin will end the cycle. I said this in 2023. We are almost in 2025. I said the cycle, I think, will end in 2025. And there's a good thing there, and I think I'm going to be right, because I'm already seeing people either saying that there's not going to be a bear market this time, and people saying that the cycle will be extended into late 2026. That is great. Why? The only way that we have the top in 2025 is if people believe that either there's no bear market or the bull market will end in 2026. Because this is how you get the euphoria phase in 2025, because they're positioning for what they think is going to happen in 2026. See the point? This is always like that. If everybody agrees that Bitcoin price is going to be 150K, then you don't get 150K. You need people convinced that Bitcoin is going to go to 600, 750, and $1 million. That's how you get. My prediction for 2025 has been unchanged. Somewhere between 242,000, 276,000 for Bitcoin, somewhere and Ethereum somewhere between $25,000 and $29,000. That's been my prediction since 2023. I've never changed a bit. Now I've seen multiple billionaires calling Bitcoin 250K. Okay, they are doing it 1 year after me, basically. So to me, I've always said the same. 2023 into 2025. 242, 276,000 for Bitcoin, 25 to 29,000 Ethereum. I never changed. It's always the same opinion that I had. What could change this to the upside? If countries say we're going to build strategic reserves, so we're going to buy Bitcoin in the market until we have a fixed amount of supply, not the dollar or the euro or the Swiss franc or the yen or the yuan value, but the fixed amount of Bitcoin. Let's say each country wants to have 500K Bitcoin. Yeah, then you can have $1 million Bitcoin, $1 million. Then you can have $3 million. That way we all win. See what I mean? Have I seen that concrete evidence? Not yet. Maybe it's going to happen in the next cycle. So until this cycle, we had the narrative of the ETF. For the next cycle, we're going to have the narrative of countries adopting it as strategic reserves. So you always need a future narrative. Okay? For Ethereum, what is the future narrative? Tokenization of finance. Who said it? BlackRock. Believe it. They have more money than me and you. They have they manage assets about half the size of the US economy, between around $15 trillion. I believe them because they have the money to do it if they want. And I don't think people like BlackRock are going to get into Ethereum just for the giggles. And yeah, Bitcoin dominance. That once again, the cycle has been repeating quite the same. Ramp up into the halving, sell off for about 6-7 months. Then Bitcoin dominates. Typically, the final quarter of 2024 or 2020 or 2016 is the same story. And then by mid-December, but particularly January, Ethereum starts to really outperform. Since the cycle has been front-run for about 2 to 3 weeks this time around, I'm willing to say that Ethereum most likely by the beginning of December or half of December will start ramping up, and you're going to start having the altcoin season. Why didn't I talk about the altcoin season like the other channels up until very recently? Because these channels have been predicting altcoin seasons since January of 2024. And I said, how can you predict that? Altcoin season is on average 235 days after the Bitcoin halving. When is that? December 2024. Middle of December 2024. Since the cycle has been front run by about 2 weeks, say it starts beginning of December 2024. That's why I'm talking about it now. Not going to give people false hope. Oh yeah, altcoin season in July or whatever they were saying, because that's just not realistic. Why should I say it? There's nothing, the cycle has not changed materially enough for me to be saying something like that. But the thing is, they don't know. And they need to create content continuously. So they need to say altcoin season in 3 weeks, altcoin season in February, altcoin season in May, altcoin season, and they miss all the time, right? They're all completely wrong. And then they come up with a story why it's missing and why this time is being different. It's not being different, but they need to keep the audience engaged. So they come up with these stories and these conspiracy theories over. It's like to some degree, it's like the AMC guys. Remember the AMC? Oh, the hedge funds are meeting in secret. Oh, the SEC is working in cahoot with the hedge funds. Oh, Biden is meeting in secret to discuss AMC. It's all the same thing. It's to create content, to create views. It's not good information. Now, the reason why I have a YouTube channel is because that behavior on YouTube really pisses me off. And I'll respond to that in a little bit. Bitcoin dominance, as I was answering, it's actually quite normal during this stage of the cycle. It starts to go down in December, so that would be December 2024, and particularly the first quarter of 2025, the Bitcoin dominance should start to materially come down. Does that mean that Bitcoin is going to crash? No. Outperformance means, let's say Bitcoin goes up 50%, but Ethereum goes up 120%. And BNB goes up 200%. And Dogecoin goes up 300%. And that one, you see what I mean? It's just outperforming Bitcoin, but it's not like Bitcoin is crashing. There's no crash. That's also for people like, by the way, Harry Dent was promoting a crypto. What was it? Oh, follow this crypto guy to become a millionaire. So he was the same guy predicting Bitcoin 10K, a month ago. You cannot listen to these people. I mean, you can. I cannot tell you what to do because I'm not your financial advisor. But if you listen to these Harry Dance, Peter Schiff, Robert Kiyosaki, George Gammon, Jim Rickards, all these people, you're going to get completely destroyed. Those are the people that predict the crash once a year. In the case of Harry Dent, it's even worse. He predicts about 6 crashes per year nowadays. So if you follow any of it, you're going to get completely destroyed. About how long the altcoin season is going to last. Look, on average, a lot of altcoins peak about 12 months after the halving. So that would be April 2025. Then in some cases, you have a sell-off period, and then they come back at the end of the year for a big hoorah. Right? We've seen this before. So for example, a lot of altcoins peaked in May 2021, and some of them also peaked or came back with the Bitcoin peak later in November 2021. Both options are available at this stage. It will frankly depend on too many things to be talking about it. I still think there's going to be a good percentage of coins that will peak in April 2025 or late March 2025. And then there's going to be others that will peak a little bit later, maybe closer to September or October. And Bitcoin price in December. Yeah, look, Bitcoin tends to, from now, November tends to be the best month for Bitcoin, October and November. But December is also a decent month. I don't know, man. I cannot tell you what to do. It's really up to you. What I know is that altcoins tend to do better, for example, into December, and then Q1 2025 is where they usually do the best. Will that happen again? Look, I have not seen anything to tell me otherwise, but can it completely collapse and go to sure? I mean, what if Trump gets an accident, right? Can happen. I think a lot of people would like that, unfortunately. So can I guarantee that something like that's not going to happen? No, but nobody can guarantee that, right? So I mean, what I'm saying is liquidity is picking up. China just announced a $1.4 trillion stimulus package. The Bank of England cut rates, the Fed cut rates. Deficit spending will not stop. It may slow down during Trump, but then the Federal Reserve the Federal Reserve is picking up the weight on the liquidity side. So far, that's all true. Can you have periods of selling? Of course you can. I think they will last less time than before, and they will probably be smaller in size than before. I feel fairly confident about it, but you can always have a black swan. I mean, what if the wars escalate quite aggressively in a short time period? What if, once again, Trump gets in an accident? What if, a new pandemic breaks out? Anything can happen, right? I mean, it's a matter of probability. Do I feel confident that the cycle will probably turn into a super cycle with Trump on behind crypto? I think so. I think at least you have a good shot that that's going to happen. So that's the way that I think. So I think mostly into the future. I have 3 brackets. Number 1, I have a free house at the age of early 30s. That part is pretty much done. Part number 2 is retirement. And bracket number 3 would be generational wealth. Will I get it? I hope so. I really hope so. Point being, the exciting phase of the market is starting. It's very easy to get left behind. YouTubers will for sure try to leverage on this. BOPPY, I think, will do quite well. I got in at 600K. Everybody knows this. I've mentioned this before. I believe it can do well as part of the HOPPY overall narrative, which is a kind of a sub-narrative versus the Matt Fury characters. But I do think it has very good potential to do very, very well. I will put in the description my latest recession starting somewhere in Q2 2025. Yeah, but if you have a recession, what is the answer? Print money, right? Can you have? I've said this before. I mean, I'll finish the video with this. The Federal Reserve and the other central banks have taken the risk out of the markets. Not crypto, obviously, because individual cryptos can go nowhere. But the overall market, like the stock market in general, let's say the S&P 500, etc. What I mean by that is, can you have sell-offs? Can you have down years? Can you have, just like we had in 2022, like 35% drawdowns at the worst and all of this? Can we have that? Sure we can. But then we go way back. We go immediately back into new all-time highs again. Why? Because the Federal Reserve and the other central banks made a decision, which is prop up the markets by debasing your currency. That has nothing to do with the prices in the groceries. It's all about the asset prices. It's basically you're increasing the money supply about 8 to 10% per year, which means that assets go up on average 8 to 10% per year. And doesn't matter what happens, you can have all sorts of stuff that lead into short-term selling. But if you give enough time, a little bit of time, you're back to new all-time highs because the currency is valued less. That's it. And in this context, the things that outperform everything are tech stocks and crypto. Crypto because it's the smallest market and because it has well-defined rules that make it prone to pumps. For example, MicroStrategy is doing very well. What is it doing? Capital raise, increasing the supply of shares. Can you do it in normal crypto at the will of a single person? No. So that's why crypto, for both reasons, it's a smaller market and it has better rules, ends up appreciating the most. And this is how you can have high interest rates and you still have new all-time highs, because the treasury is deficit spending, creating liquidity on that side of the equation, so the money supply net is increasing at the same time. That's it. If we do have a recession 2025, deficit spending goes up, money printing goes up, interest rates go down, and after a while, you're filled with liquidity once again. And liquidity is nothing more than more dollars circulating against financial assets, not the price of codfish in the supermarket or the price of beef in the supermarket. No, the price of real estate, the price of stocks, the price of crypto. That's the thing that goes up. This is why people always get confused. Once again, China is putting out stimulus after money printing after. What are they fighting? Deflation. As soon as the Bank of England start cutting rates a bit more aggressively, the inflation rate in the UK is below 2%. Same thing for Canada, same thing for the Eurozone. It's all the same. And I don't know, these people, which was the country that rose rates the least? Switzerland. Which country in Europe had the lowest inflation? Switzerland. No, but I thought that you need the high rates to fight inflation. No. It's the same story over and over again. This is why these people keep on predicting the same market crashes and the same destruction of these and the 80% sell-offs in the stock market. No, you're not going to get it until they materially changed. No, it's not bothering at all. Don't feel bad about it. Sorry, Raf. What I'm trying to say is, I don't get annoyed by you. Don't get me wrong. I don't get annoyed by your questions. But many of these questions, they come because they go and they listen to Peter Schiff and Harry Dent, and they will fill your head with these inflation stories or these collapses of 90%. And the point is to sell books. You see, the way that they make money is YouTube ad revenue, sponsorship fees, selling of books, going to to television and talk about how the impending collapse of the economic world is about to unfold. And all of these things, they get paid by that. But if you actually look at their track records, it's terrible. Just Peter Schiff has funds out there. Check the performance of his funds. It's all public, right? The way that he speaks is so arrogant, right? Like he's the best of all time of anything. Check his track record. Go to Harry Dent, same thing. He has funds out there. Check it. They will never, this is the funny part. They talk about their funds, but they never talk about their track record. That's because it's terrible. The idea is to get new people over and over and over again engaging. Now, when is this going to stop? Funny part, probably when you have events that reduce liquidity. If you look at the liquidity cycle, which is typically around 4 years as well, which is the crypto cycle, it's the same thing. If you look at it, when liquidity gets drawn out of the system, you get dollar spikes, then you get big drop in risk assets. Because you get the big drop, then you push the liquidity out again. Why do they need asset prices to stay high? Because the largest item on the financial assets world is debt. What is debt collateralized by? Assets. If you remove the liquidity of the system, asset prices go down, which means the collateral for all these debts goes down, which means these debts start to collapse. And then you have a deflationary spiral, very hard to control. This is why they don't allow for it. Why? Because if you would, let's make it simple. Follow the logic. Liquidity comes down, asset prices come down. Asset prices collateralize debts. Debts start to come down. Who is the biggest, who this impacts? If the debts start to collapse, who is affected by this? Banks. What is the Federal Reserve, the ECB, the BOE, the BOJ? What are they? Central banks. They are not here for me and you. They are here to save banks. We don't matter. I'm sorry if this is like a shock to you. We don't. They are here to protect the banking system, not me and you. Why? Because they are central banks. They are not central community of West Virginia. No, they are central banks. They protect the banks. Because the assets collateralize the debt, and there's a lot of debt in the system, you cannot have deflation of these debts for a different reason. What happens in deflation? Deflation is great for people like you and me. If, for example, we go to the groceries, and let's say beef is not $5, it's $2. Wouldn't you be happy? Of course. What is the problem of that? How do you tax deflation as a government? With inflation is very easy. If the price of things goes up, your salary goes up, because your salary is just the price of labor. It's another price. If all the other prices go up, your salary goes up. But if your salary goes up, maybe you go above another income tax bracket. And because they charge VAT in Europe or global sales tax in the US, as long as they get a percentage of the total, they will make their money. How does the government tax deflation? They can't. So they come and tell you that inflation at 2% is very good. They never explain to you why, but they will tell you that. So, okay, it's great. Great, inflation at 2%. I don't really, have you ever seen someone say, come to my store, today things are 2% more expensive, come and enjoy this? Have you ever seen this? No. Number two, what is deflation? Deflation means your future dollars or euros or whatever are worth more in the future than now. Right? So inflation is your future dollars are worth less. In deflation, your future dollars are worth more. That means that debts are worth more in the future than now. Who are the biggest debtors on the planet? Governments. So why would governments want deflation? Makes no sense. So they don't know how to tax it, and they're the biggest debtors out there. What they need is inflation. But they don't want inflation in the goods and services because that pisses off people. So they give you inflation in the way of assets. That's it. They debase your currency, but they use the banks as gatekeepers so that you don't have an inflationary spiral, unless they do something like they've done in 2020, in which they gave money directly to people and they constrain the supply chain at the same time. Then you have grocery inflation, like inflation's in the supermarket, you have inflation everywhere, for sure. But this is when you remove the banks as gatekeepers, as in the middle. That's it. There's no big conspiracy theory. And I'm going to defend the central banks to you. This all came about in 2008. In 2008, you need to understand this. The world financial system stopped. We were in for something worse than the Great Depression. Why worse? Because in the Great Depression, there was no real estate bubble. There were stock bubbles, but there was no real estate bubble. I mean, you had mortgages of 5 years, 50% upfront payment. You couldn't speculate in the real estate market. So the banks were not that exposed. In this case, banks were really exposed, which means if you had savings in banks, those banks were going to go bankrupt. And your savings, poof, disappeared. You're talking 25, 30% unemployment. You're talking food lines, like lines for food banks. You're talking about like real dire conditions, right? Do you think our generations can take that like the ones did in 1929? Do you think we can handle that? I don't think we can, and I'm including myself in that. By the way, I'm not trying to be, I'm so strong and you are also weak. No, I couldn't take it either. So they had a decision to make. Shall we debase the currency X percentage per year, and we have this kind of false sense of prosperity in the financial markets, but really the real economy doesn't really improve, kind of stagnates in the same place. Why do you think the extremist parties are winning elections in Europe? Why do you think Trump came about the first time? How do you think Boris Johnson in the UK came in the first time? How do you think Brexit happens? This is because people are getting screwed, but they don't understand really what's happening. Like, they cannot really pinpoint what's really bad, but they feel that something is wrong. So this is how you get these elections, because the real economy is terrible, or is not great, is not moving much, but the financial economy is doing amazing, which means who owns the financial assets? Very rich people. So these rich people get very, very, very wealthy, not because they are cheating anybody, it's just because they understand what's happening. The currency is being debased, they own assets. Assets go up in value, they become richer. Unfortunately, the bottom 80% doesn't own anything, and their salaries doesn't grow because productivity is going nowhere. So they feel that the gap between one and the other is getting out of hand, which it is. But you see, in 1929, this is the key. This is how I'm going to defend the central banks. Maybe this is for the best. Have you considered that? People forget a certain person was elected in 1933 in Germany that then went to start, that famous conflict between 1939 and 1945. One of the key drivers for it was the Great Depression in the United States. It contaminated Europe, and particularly Germany, who stemmed into hyperinflation, destroyed the country, and this is how those people got into power. They were elected, by the way, in case you don't. It was not a revolution or anything. No, they were elected because things got that bad in Germany. Maybe they avoided something similar like that. Can you imagine? Who knows? I mean, sometimes we don't see how all these dominoes will fall. So before people start judging them too much, maybe they looked at the Great Depression in the past and they said, "Oh my God, we had, a person that unfortunately has been mentioned over and over during this U.S. election, one of the worst people on the planet." And the way that we get out of this mess, if you will, is AI and productivity boost. Maybe AI brings in so much productivity and so much wealth that all these mistakes with this debt accumulation simply go away. I think that's the bet that is being made. And if it works, they actually will do. Actually, the scenario that they put in together with the currency debasement actually made the most sense. And I'll leave you with that, guys. I will add a few things on the description of this video. As I've said, you guys will see my positions, and I hope that I clarified everything. If you guys have more questions, drop it in the comment section. Thank you very much. Historic week for the US, historic week for the world, for Bitcoin, for crypto, and we hope to have some more fun into the cycle. By the way, there's going to be, I don't know what's going to be, but there's going to be an amazing narrative that's going to come close to the end of the cycle. Last time it was NFTs. In 2017, it was Launchpad. What's going to be 2025? We don't know. We need to get there, and we will eventually know. With that, thank you very much for your support, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much for all your support. Okay, final question. Why do you think liquidity will seriously increase and flood the markets? Yeah, should be 2025 the peak. This is when you're going to have some degree deficit spending combined with the central banks all over the world helping. And of course, China has already announced $1.4 trillion. So 2025 should be the peak of liquidity, and then 2026 we have less liquidity in the system, and that's why I think we're still going to have the bear market. And with that, thank you very much for your support, and I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, by the way, I'll give you a little thing for the end. I think in the next bear market, Ethereum will go down somewhere between 75 and 80%, maybe around 5,750 or so. That's going to be the bottom. I will tell you better once I've seen the top of this cycle. And with that, thank you very much for your support, and I'll catch you in the next one.